Mixed martial arts is typically deemed to be a too violent sport to be played by women. A raft of deadly female fighters is currently competing in the sport of UFC. Yet, the emergence of their competitions was by far later than men. Only in 1997 that females began to fight officially in the United States. Since then, many women have etched their names in the history books with their performances in the sport. Female MMA was not taken that much seriously until the time that the UFC began purchasing them. UFC female fights don't have a long history because they started widely in 2013. The encounter between Rousey and Carmouche at UFC 157 was the first. In such a short period of time, UFC has produced some of the best fighters the world has ever seen. The quality of their fighters is improving dramatically as it attracts even more new talents. So, check out the top 7 insane knockout women UFC. 1. Zhang Weili vs Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Zhang Weili and Joanna Jedrzejczyk delivered the greatest fight in women's MMA history at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and when it was over, the result of the UFC 248 co-main event was almost secondary due to the epic nature of the bout. But it was Zhang retaining her UFC strawweight title for the first time via 5-round split decision in a fight that raised the stock of both ladies in the sport. Scores were 48-47 twice and 47-48 for Zhang. Now 21-1. Jedrzejczyk falls to 16-4. Both fighters were busy to start, but a minute in, Jedrzejczyk landed a hard right hand upstairs, and her combinations at close range had the former champ smiling and in the lead. Zhang began to find her rhythm midway through the frame, though, and she was throwing with power every time, clearly getting Jedrzejczyk's attention. Resuming their high-volume striking battle in round 2, Jedrzejczyk was mixing things up nicely. And in the second minute, the two locked up against the fence, taking turns in control, with Zhang landing elbows and Jedrzejczyk responding with knees. With a little over 2 minutes left, Zhang rattled Jedrzejczyk with a right hand, forcing the Poland native to reset. By the end of the round, the crowd was roaring at the fast-paced action, but Zhang's eye was rapidly swelling. Zhang came out fast for round 3 and got in some hard shots before Jedrzejczyk settled back in and continued unleashing combinations. And once Jedrzejczyk switched to southpaw, she had more success. With 2 minutes left, Zhang locked up with Jedrzejczyk briefly, and once they broke, it was Zhang roaring back, raising a welt on the challenger's head in the process. But Jedrzejczyk finished the round strong, making it another nightmare for the judges to score. The high-level action continued in round 4, with neither fighter backing down nor each taking turns rocking the other. And while Zhang was in the championship rounds for the first time, she was still swinging for the fences. But it was Jedrzejczyk who was clearly the fresher of the two. With 2 minutes left, Zhang landed a hard shot to the forehead. But Jedrzejczyk kept moving forward, landing an elbow before the two locked up against the fence. Jedrzejczyk glanced at the clock in the final 30 seconds, but that didn't stop her from bringing the heat. 2. Ronda Rousey vs Liz Carmouche. The first women's bout in UFC history. The arrival of Rousey to the biggest stage in the sport was a cultural moment, and a crucial point in the growth and development of the organization. Early in the fight, however, it looked as if the unbeaten champion might not enjoy a lengthy reign at the top, as she had in Strikeforce bouts against championship talents like Marlos Coenen and Sarah Kaufman. Carmouche entered the cage ready to push Rousey to her limits and became the first fighter to really threaten the former Olympic medalist. Early in the bout, Carmouche took Rousey's back and clamped on a neck crank that had fans on the edge of their seats and put Rousey on the defensive. But the champion escaped and eventually turned the tables, finishing her first bout in the Octagon the way she had each of her previous 5 fights, with a submission win via armbar before the opening 5 minutes had elapsed. 3. Kat Zingano vs Miesha Tate. While the first women's bantamweight fight will always be remembered for its historic significance, the second has a place in the annals of time because of its sheer awesomeness. It's been just over 5 years since these two women shared the cage in Las Vegas, and it still might be the best scrap on the women's side of the sport to take place inside the Octagon. This one was emotional and intense from the jump as Zingano cried on her way to the cage before steeling herself for battle, while Tate entered as game and focused as ever. Through the opening 2 rounds, the former Strikeforce and future UFC title holder got the better of things, edging ahead in a pair of close frames. But in the third, Zingano's aggression and ferocity took over. An early takedown created a chance to open up with strikes and batter Tate, who showed her trademark heart in continuing to battle through and work to her feet. But as she did, Zingano planted her back on the canvas with a knee, with several more following as she once again regrouped and looked to stand, bringing the bout to a sudden, dramatic halt. 4. Joanna Jedrzejczyk vs. Claudia Gadelha. You know, when filmmakers become massive successes and people go back to check out some of their earlier efforts, only to discover that they were just as terrific before everyone in the world caught on. That's kind of what this fight feels like to me. Tucked away is the final preliminary card bout of the evening. Jedrzejczyk and Gadelha would eventually gain recognition as two of the top female fighters in the world and burgeoning stars in the UFC. But on this evening, they were unheralded contenders who went toe-to-toe in an agonizingly close fight where the outcome is still debated to this day. Jedrzejczyk landed on the happy side of the split decision verdict in the desert, and went on to challenge for the strawweight title in her next bout, while the controversial loss never sat well with Gadelha and became the basis for a heated rivalry between the two, one that would come to a head 18 months later. 5. Holly Holm vs. Ronda Rousey. After 12 consecutive victories, 6 straight successful title defenses and 4 wins in a combined 2 minutes and 10 seconds, Rousey entered this one at the height of her powers and having crossed over into the mainstream, having announced this matchup on Good Morning America in front of the largest crowd in UFC history at Etihad Stadium in Melbourne, Australia. She charged into the cage looking to add Holm to her list of vanquished foes, only to find out that the former multiple-time world champion boxer had other ideas. Holm played the part of the matador perfectly, sidestepping and countering Rousey's aggressive advances with precision, frustrating the dominant champion from the jump. It quickly became apparent that a changing of the guard atop the women's bantamweight division was in the offing, and less than a minute into the second frame, Holm officially shocked the world, blasting Rousey with a high kick that brought her reign to an abrupt end. Just as Rousey's first appearance in the Octagon was a "where were you when" moment, so too was the night she was knocked from her throne in the ranks of the unbeaten. For the record, I was at home, watching in amazement like everyone else. 6. Miesha Tate vs. Holly Holm. Even though it stands as one of the most unexpected comeback wins in UFC history, and a title changed hands as a result, this one has gotten overshadowed a little because Conor McGregor and Nathan Diaz followed this pair into the cage and delivered another memorable bout with a surprise finish right after them. That being said, Tate's come-from-behind performance her against Holm stands as the perfect representation of her career, as she earned this win through sheer determination and heart, and a pretty deep rear naked choke too. Entering the 5th round, Holm was up 3-1 on the scorecards and had done an admirable job of keeping the fight standing. In space, she was able to get the better of the striking exchanges and keep Tate at range. The one round where she couldn't, Tate controlled the action on the canvas, pressuring with offense and hunting for a choke. With 2 minutes left in the final frame, Tate spun Holm to the floor and stuck to her back like glue as the champion looked to scramble free. As Holm stood, Tate fished her forearm under the neck and maintained control as Holm tried to shake her off. Falling to the canvas, Tate tightened her squeeze, and with just 90 seconds remaining in the contest, Holm went out and Tate had completed one of the most improbable come-from-behind victories in UFC history. 7. Amanda Nunes vs. Valentina Shevchenko. If Tate's bout with Holm has been slightly overshadowed by the subsequent Diaz-McGregor clash and the rivalry it spawned, this bout was initially buried coming out of UFC 196, but that doesn't change that it was a terrific back-and-forth battle. Nunes entered on a 2-fight winning streak and brandishing fight-changing power. Shevchenko arrived off a short-notice decision win over former Strikeforce champ Sarah Kaufman in her promotional debut. In the early going, Nunes rushed out to a lead, controlling the action with her grappling and putting it on the UFC newcomer. In the third, however, Shevchenko rallied, scoring a takedown of her own early before outworking the tired Brazilian on the feet for the remainder of the frame, while Nunes rightfully took home the close decision win. The feeling on press row was that Shevchenko had all the momentum and things might have been different if this were a 5-round fight. We eventually got to see that play out as Nunes rose to the top of the division, and Shevchenko emerged as the No. 1 contender, leading to their close championship showdown at UFC 215 in Edmonton, which saw the Lioness retain her title by split decision. If you find this video informative, then leave a like, and if you are new, then don't forget to subscribe. See you till the next video. Thank you for watching.